cooperative members bank that I work with. But I don't work with the banking operations. I work with the ethics committee. I will explain soon what that is. And my background is very diverse, I would say. I have a bachelor in economic history where I studied the relationship between banks and central banks in their money creation, focus on that. And I'm also with the Post-Growth Institute since 2022. I'm a teacher, ex-musician, and I studied in Cuba when I was young, which was, of course, interesting for the different economic system. And they have 3 different currencies working at the time. So, what is JAK? Our bank is a cooperative bank owned by its members. So it's a democratic bank in the sense that it's one member has one vote at the annual assembly where all the decisions, not all the decisions, but the ones that we can decide on the annual assembly. Yes, because I want to talk a little bit about the balance between democracy and compliance. Exactly. What can we decide? What can we not? This bank, we are also controlled and protected now by the financial inspection since 1997 when we became a bank. We are still an economic association, but now also with a banking license. We are not-for-profit bank. We don't have bonuses or shares or profits like that. And we are a sustainable bank. Let me develop a bit. JAK is not a full bank. We don't have exactly all the same services as other banks, but most. And we focus on savings and loans. And we are not an interest-free bank anymore. It was funded very specifically as an interest-free bank, as for ideological reasons, for more equality, because interest increases the inequality in the economy. So that was the beginning, but we are not an interest rate free bank anymore. I will explain a bit further. So JAK is also partly, you can say, it's a post-growth bank, because we do create some money through the loans that we give, but this is very limited. So right now we have a stop and a waiting list for our loans. So we are not allowed to create money right now because the bank depends on the members and on their savings. But we can create some money there. We don't create money through speculation at all. We don't have our assets on the financial markets, and we don't create money through profit or for profit. So kind of a mix. And I guess this is an example of community banking, not community currency though. It's so interesting to hear about all of this today. And I'm just going to mention shortly some things about, the currencies in the north, because we don't have the euro in Sweden. It's a mix in the north right now, and Finland are the only ones who are in the euro. And I would say, because the rest of us have crowns, and I would say maybe the Swedish crown is is maybe the weakest crown right now. So it is a small and a weak currency. We're not pegged to the euro even as the Danish crown is. And also this geographical image actually matters, I would say, when it comes to economic democracy also, because the vast different distances, they had, of course, more effect when we had a physical currency. Now the currency is mostly digital, but it does affect because life is so different in the north and in the south. So this, after studying economic history, this question is something that we always have to take with us. It's not like Central Europe where circulation is easier geographically. And we should also keep in mind, actually, I think this is important, that our economies and our currencies here are backed a lot by the natural resources that are found on indigenous land. This is Sámi. This circle is not correct or adequate. I could only use a circular tool for this presentation, but forestry and mining is still what is backing our currencies. Unfortunately, this is so sad. It's very unsustainable. And just last week, English Beowulf Mining was granted new mining projects on Sámi land. Actually, I hope this is going to be more conflict. So we don't have a very sustainable currency, the national currency. But we are rated as the second most sustainable bank in Sweden. Yes, Ekobanken is first, and then we are second. And I'm not going to go too deep into this rating. It's rated by Fair Finance Guy. They are an external rater. But what I find a bit sad is also that in all the media, they leave out the top two, maybe because we're not full banks. I would love for the media to explain this, but when they rate all the banks' sustainability, they leave out the top two, and they start with Swedbank. And here you see all the big banks following us below there. So, brief history of this journey from democracy to compliance. I'm going to try to keep it simple, but this bank started as a cooperative bank in Denmark in the 30s and then also in Sweden in the 60s by farmers who were suffering from high interest rate levels. So they came together, they joined their savings, and they could start buying a new tractor or something like that. So it developed in this way and kind of boomed a bit in the 90s, where members doubled several times. I was explained to that this was in relation to the financial crisis at the time and a big amount of distrust in the system. So people came to JAK. This was beautiful news, and democracy in the bank was really well, with a lot of membership engagement and meetings all over the country at that time. But now in hindsight, I think this is where there should have been more long-term foresight to also develop compliance. Because now in 1997, when the bank got the banking license, this is a huge responsibility. And this also costs money. And increasing now, we have a lot of costs for financial crime prevention and all of this. So maybe it was a bit short-term thinking at that point because they were so happy. But we need to, today at 2024, we are really struggling to maintain, to stay alive and maintain all the compliance we need to do. We actually had some bad publicity also. Jens was talking about this. I was like, oh yeah, we can check that box. So the bank is struggling, but it's still there. I also heard that there was in Belgium an initiative that bankrupted. And when I was told this, you have the euro, right? That bank has the euro. Because I'm just thinking, like, I know how the financial inspection in Sweden are so scared for our currency that any bank would bankrupt, that I think they will not let it happen. Whereas this might not have been a threat to the euro, but if we bankrupt, it could be, even as small as it is, a threat to the crown, the Swedish crown. So a lot of things interplay. So how do we work with this balance of democracy and compliance? We have this document for internal standards or guidelines, and this outranks all the other banks in sustainability and democracy. So in this sense, we do more than we have to in this sort of level or quality. And we also have the ethics committee that was created as JAK transitioned from being just an economic association to also being a bank. We're 3 to 5 people right now. We're 5 people, and we are there to guard the interests of the members and not the board, and to prevent any shift in focus towards profit. I think this was a really good solution. Actually, we also have membership activities that are ongoing. In the 90s, there were a lot in person and over the whole country, but now it's mainly online, which is not as appreciated, especially by the older generation in the bank who like to meet in person more than just be online. But the membership activities, I really think this is such an important part also because it's about having meetings and speakers. We are meeting now and upgrading our knowledge and combining education agency and all of this. And also the organizational structure is kind of divided in its positions, and we try to have a mixed board. I'll show you briefly that some of the positions are elected democratically and some of the positions are employed. So here we also see this balance between democracy and compliance, and you can't do both. This is our board right now. rather mixed. We need more diversity, really. And I think they should be more than just 6. This is the minimum, because sometimes people drop off and then we have to have a new assembly. But they have different knowledges, as you can see. So, how it started as an interest-free banking? Nope, there was a big no in the beginning. And how it's going? Oops. We have to use interest, but the interest in JAK is used to cover costs and not to create profit. So this is a big difference. But we have to call it interest instead of a fee now, according to the financial inspection. The rates are set by the bank, not by the central bank, and it is now a part of compensating for inflation and attracting savers, actually. Started annual assemblies, membership engagement, meetings, speakers, local meetings, courses, etc. And I think this is, I like this picture, because we have this idea sometimes of democracy being so harmonious and one big happy family, everyone agreeing. And actually, democracy is really uncomfortable. And how is it going? We're still there. And this is the part I like. Actually, I learned through working with JAK to respect other people's decisions, even if I don't agree, having patience, like, okay, this will take a couple of years before we see the good results. So, and we, of course, have to do all this within the frame of compliance now more and more. But what we don't want to see is end up here, where some of the people in the bank now feel that this might be happening to JAK. In order to survive, we have to spend so much time and money on compliance that voices will be silenced and there's no energy or dynamics left. So it's a fine balance, really. And if anyone is interested in doing something similar, I'm here. You can talk to me, and I know that our CEO, Daniel, is also available. If anyone is interested, he was happy that I was going here and talk to you. Some final thoughts. Why is it important with small-scale sustainable banking? A few points, of course, pluralism and more than just governmental democracy, which is also important, like positive money, but for diversity, we need many different solutions. Small businesses or enterprises actually rely more on regular bank loans and services than on venture capitalists and investors as a fact. So this is why small sustainable banks matter also. Move your money and savings and loans has a big effect on the financial system. So we can be a part of that. And the education and agency of learning by doing, I think, is really important. Some personal thoughts, just related research and development I would hope to see. Maybe this is not even for different things, but all goes together. I would love to hear and see more of stable currencies and circular scenarios, like degrowth compatible currencies. And I think on Sunday there will be a speech by Donnie McClurkin on post-growth money. And I asked actually the Central Bank of Sweden, which is very tied to the European Central Bank. They obey by them a lot. But I asked them 2 years ago, like, are you studying degrowth at all? Investigating it, looking at it, or anything? He didn't want to answer first. But after a while, he was like, well, degrowth is still considered political. So in order to even look at it, we would need an assignment from the government. So growth is not considered political. This is very interesting. That's what he said. Also, currencies with sustainable anchoring, of course, not anchored in bullion production technology and likes. Currencies closer to female life and sectors, money creation linked to circulation, service, and restoration, rather than only production. And collaboration, just like we are here today, between everyone, banks, central banks, academics, organizations, communities, individuals, activists. This is really important, and I'm so glad that we are doing this. Just like you said, Nadine, there's a lot of hope also. If you want to read more about us, there is a presentation in English at We Don't Have Time. And of course, you can go to our website, jak.e. It's all in Swedish, including if you want to look closer at numbers, you can find there the årsredovisning, like the yearly report. Thank you. The annual report. First of all, there's a lot of description in text about the bank, and then comes the numbers at the end. And I'm sure with like AI, you can translate it in a second if you're interested. So you can go there and check. And I guess that was all for me, actually. I look forward to hearing more during this weekend. So thanks a lot.